Come, let me tell you a story. It's about an elderly mother left alone when her son moved far away. Her days were filled with silence and memories, until one day a shocking truth changed everything. A story of pain, regret, and deep love.
Marilyn Thompson had lived alone on Willow Street for years, carrying the heavy guilt of losing her only son Ethan after her harsh attitude drove him and his wife away. And every morning she opened her blinds to an empty driveway and a silence so thick it felt like a punishment she deserved. Until the day a moving truck pulled up across the street and a teenage boy named Mason arrived with his parents. And though she pretended not to care, something about the kid's soft, uncertain eyes stuck with her. A few days later, when her grocery bag tore and a can rolled down her driveway, Mason ran over, scooped it up, and helped her carry everything inside despite her stubborn protests, calling her ma'am and awkwardly trying not to sound rude, making her laugh for the first time in years. And slowly he began appearing more often, mowing the lawn, fixing her porch light, bringing her hot chocolate on cold days, telling her funny stories from school, dropping casual slang like "my bad," "that dude is wild," and "man, school sucks," while Marilyn pretended to disapprove but secretly loved every second of the noise and life he brought into her empty world. Every time she watched him dribble a basketball in his driveway or walk home with music blasting from his headphones, she felt a painful reminder of how Ethan used to be at that age, kind, gentle, full of light, before she smothered him with control and criticism that pushed him away forever. One night, when shouting erupted from Mason's house and his parents slammed doors and cursed at each other, Mason stormed outside, visibly shaking, too angry to cry, and Marilyn impulsively invited him to sit on her porch, where he confessed how exhausted he was from living in a constant battlefield, saying, "I swear, Marilyn, I can't do this shit every night." And she simply listened, offering patience instead of judgment, something she had never given her own son. And slowly, a bond formed. Mason bringing her small gifts like donuts or a new mailbox flag, her teaching him how to cook pancakes or how to fold laundry properly, both filling the holes in each other's hearts without ever saying it out loud. But Marilyn's guilt never disappeared, and every night she sat at her kitchen table staring at her silent phone, wondering if Ethan ever thought of her, while Mason grew more comfortable, sometimes calling her Mare like a nickname, sometimes venting about school bullies, sometimes sitting on her porch steps for hours, and she began feeling alive again, until one winter afternoon when Mason didn't show up for 2 days straight, and Marilyn, worried sick, finally walked to his house and knocked until his mother answered with tired eyes, explaining Mason had run away after another explosive fight, leaving only a short note saying he needed space. Marilyn's stomach dropped, her hand shook, and she realized how deeply she cared for him, how terrified she was of losing another boy she loved. So she searched the neighborhood, calling his name, her old legs aching, and finally found him sitting behind the closed high school gym, hoodie up, staring at the cold ground. She sat beside him breathlessly, and without scolding simply said, "You don't have to run from me." And he broke down, telling her how lost he felt, how everyone at home yelled and blamed each other, how he wished he could disappear. And Marilyn, heart trembling, told him about Ethan, revealing the whole truth, how her stubbornness and pride pushed him away, how she smothered him with control instead of love, how she ignored his feelings until he finally left forever. And Mason, listening quietly, whispered, "I don't want that to happen to us," calling their bond what it truly was, chosen family. They walked back together, Mason promising he wouldn't run again, and over the next months he visited her daily, confiding in her like a second mother. But Marilyn's heart could never fully rest because she knew she had unfinished business with Ethan. So one spring morning, encouraged by Mason, she gathered her courage, dialed Ethan's number with trembling fingers, and when he answered with shock in his voice, she apologized, truly apologized for everything, crying harder than she ever had, admitting she had been wrong, admitting she had hurt the woman he loved, admitting she had ignored his feelings until he finally left forever.
Lost years she could never get back, and Ethan, after a long silence, finally exhaled and said, "Mom, I've wanted to hear that for a long time," agreeing to visit her soon. When she hung up, her entire body shook with relief, and Mason, who had been waiting on the porch, grinned and said, "See? Told you got this." And she pulled him into a rare hug, realizing that a lonely old woman and a lonely teenage boy had somehow saved each other, proving that family isn't just blood. Sometimes it's the boy next door who shows up with hot chocolate, fixes porch lights, and gives you back the pieces of your heart you thought were gone forever.